Wout van Aert would not have showed up at the team hotel if he was not sick. So I think that's first of all. Plus, I personally think that Wout is still carrying a little bit of that stress. He's gone down a few times really hard. I don't think we're going to ever see Wout van Aert again in bunch sprints like we saw him in the past. I think that he made that switch in his mind, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm the 2012 Tour de France winner, Sir Bradley Wiggins.
And I'm Johan Bruyneel. I directed my teams to 9 Tour de France victories. Welcome to the Sir Wiggo and Johan Show, our daily show where we dive deep into the tactics behind every stage of the Tour de France.
Okay, well, let's start with breaking down today's stage 1 of the Tour de France from Lille to Lille. Was supposed to be a sprinter stage. It was still a sprint, but we've seen a lot of things happening during the stage. Lots of crosswind crashes, lots of people suffering already. Bradley, what did you think overall of today's stage?
Yeah, today's stage, I think it lived up to the expectation. I think we all knew this part of France. We all knew the type of roads that this stage was going to be on, and we predicted pretty much as it played out. A couple of losers on GC there today. Remco, most notably, losing 45, 46 seconds. Roglic lost some time. The crosswinds played their part towards the end of the stage. Crashes played their part. Almeida. Mm-hmm. Crashes played their part during the stage, but it didn't play its part in a decisive manner for the GC. And the winner was predictable as well. I don't think there was anyone who didn't put Jasper Philipsen in with a chance of winning today. So all round, I think it lived up to the expectation of stage 1 of the Tour de France. But what it did do was give us a flavour of what's to come the next few days, which makes great viewing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all expected a sprint. The big favorite was Merlier. Second favorite was Milan. I mean, yesterday in outcomes with Spencer, we both picked one of those. And it was actually surprising now in hindsight to see that Jasper Philipsen was plus 400 or something, plus 500. I mean, this guy won 3 stages every time in his last 3 Tour de France. Yeah. So this was stage 10 today. Jasper is just a sprinter that when the Tour comes, he just gets his game up a level, doesn't he? I mean, I could see in the Belgian championships, he did a great race. It was a really hard race.
He's versatile.
Finished third.
He's versatile, isn't he?
Yeah.
Second in Paris-Roubaix.
Second Paris-Roubaix, won Milan-San Remo. And he was able to follow Remco in the Belgian championships, and it was a really hard race. So when the Tour de France comes, and also that team, that team just, they are there when it really matters. And that's what I really like about that team.
Yeah, no, incredibly strong. Mathieu van der Poel today played his part, didn't he? Mm-hmm. He did that big turn with 5K to go and really lined it out. And then we saw him again in the last few hundred meters, really getting involved in the lead out. But they rode the perfect race today, didn't they?
Yeah, I think independently whether it was a split or not, the scenario would probably have been the same.
Of course it would.
Because they said, I mean, they had 5 guys up there, but it's probably one of the strongest sprint trains in this tour. And I mean, for Philipsen to win stage 1, first yellow jersey, close to Belgium. This is not the last we've seen of this guy, because usually he gets better through the tour, right? And it's a team that's really well run. The Rotov brothers, they have their stuff together. They know what they're doing, and it's not easy to get a guy like Mathieu van der Poel, a world star. The cohesion there and the camaraderie in the team is amazing. You can see that Mathieu is really, really happy when somebody else wins.
Yeah. No, it's very special, very special. And it's, what started out as a small team, they've developed into quite a force, haven't they? Alpecin over the years. They've attracted the big co-sponsor in De Koenig, of course, who were with Quick-Step. And they're a force to be reckoned with now, all round.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, before we go into more details of today's stage, Bradley, we want to talk a little bit about our first sponsor, Zwift.
Yeah, so this show is sponsored by Zwift, and Zwift recently rolled out its new Cog and Clicked product. It's such a simple yet brilliant product. You can use almost on any bike that you already own, even from one from Walmart. Point being, your bike doesn't have to cost $5,000 to use this unused Zwift and still feel like you're on a top-end smart trainer. Zwift-ready trainers are available from all the top manufacturers, Wahoo, Garmin Elite, Jet Black and Decathlon, setting a new benchmark for indoor training. All Zwift-ready trainers come with the new Zwift Cog and Click installed, making them ready to ride from the box, no extras needed. So simple and no need to remove your cassette. So Zwift-ready trainers start at just $299, meaning anyone can jump on into a world-class indoor training without breaking the bank.
No, I have the Zwift Ride, so the bike with the trainer and this virtual cassette. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it's really worth trying. It's like a joystick. It's like playing a video game nowadays. Yeah. So really nice.
Great product.
But anyways, so. Bradley, going a little bit more into detail, I think there's a few things that really stick out. First of all, very nervous. We know what it feels like if you have a GC rider. And I would like to know your opinion a little bit on, we see Visma lease a bike around Jonas, and we see UAE around Tadej, and then everybody else, and I think that's a little bit what we're going to see during the next 3 weeks. But already from day one, those two teams were very dominantly at the front. Yeah. And I had the impression, I don't know what you think, tell me what you think. Visma was really, really very solidly around Jonas. Jonas looked very focused, was in front, but he had really strong guys. I mean, Affini was unbelievable today. Wow. On the other hand, UAE, they were great early on. It's been stressful since the start, I guess, with the crosswinds. But and Tadej doesn't really need that much looking after. He's really good on his own. But my impression was that today, Visma looked better organized. I'm not going to say stronger, but better organized than UAE. What did you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I find myself thinking what was. I don't think UAE fell away through losing energy or a lack of power. And I wonder if that call came from Tadej. Tadej's such a cool head on his shoulders, and we've seen him up there in Paris-Roubaix. He's the winner of the Tour of Flanders. So his confidence compared to someone like Jonas in those conditions, they'll be on different levels. And I thought Jonas, if anything, got a little bit too excited in the final. We saw him win the last King of the Mountains prize. Mm-hmm. And at times he was on the front with his teammates coming up to him to get in front of him, because he was taking so much wind. And you could look at that both ways. Is that Jonas being a little overcautious, a little over nervous and expending too much energy and not using his team and having the confidence to sit back? But I don't know if that call came from Tadej just to say, guys, we've got a long 3 weeks ahead of us here. Let's just sit back. We don't need to be fifth wheel. We could be 10, we could be 15. Because don't forget, Tadej sitting 15th wheel or 20th wheel will get the respect of the riders around him because of the dominance he's shown in the sport and the respect he commands. So I would say that Jonas, as the leader that he is, with a strong head on his shoulders, may have just called his team back a little bit and said, guys, look, let's not get too carried, because at one point it was starting to become like a drag race in the front amongst the teams. If anything, I would say Jonas, it is the long 3 weeks ahead of him. And he was taking a lot of wind. He was taking a lot of wind, wasn't he?
It looks great on stage one, and I think it, first of all, it speaks for the way he feels. I mean, he must have great legs, and he does have great legs. But sometimes it can also be. I mean, as you say, it's a drag race, and it all adds up. And sometimes it's even better to feel a little less. I mean, you feel okay, but not too super. And you hide yourself more, Like now, I agree with you. Jonas was sometimes alone in the wind. He is actually the guy who started the echelon. He's the guy who took the initiative, which is very, very rare. And it's great for his confidence. But over time, I think don't get too excited. I mean, they're on the same level right now. Time-wise. And for sure, I mean, how this goes, after the stage, the spirits, I mean, Visma is going to take, more hope out of this. Yeah. We were 4 guys. They were only 2 guys, It's also a little bit psychological, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean anything. Right?
Just on Visma, Johan, what happened to Wout van Aert today? I was surprised he didn't make the front group.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. If
he did have a bit of illness, didn't he, come into this race?
He didn't start the Belgian championships. And, there were, I've heard Adrie van der Poel, for example, on Belgian TV, like a hint that, you out. Okay, he was sick, but he said, he made it sound like he wasn't really sick. I think he was sick. He was at the hotel.
Yeah.
He was at the team hotel, and in the morning, he came down for breakfast and said, hey, I'm feeling bad. Otherwise you're not. Listen,
no.
A guy like Wout van Aert, he can just say he's sick and stay home. The thing is that in Belgium, it's an obligation to participate unless you have a valid reason. Wout van Aert would not have showed up at the team hotel if he was not sick. So I think that's first of all. Plus, I personally think that Wout is still carrying a little bit of that stress. He's gone down a few times really hard. I don't think we're going to ever see Wout van Aert again in bunch sprints like we saw him in the past. Yeah. I think that he made that switch in his mind, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And but
I agree. Normally he should have been there. So I personally think it's probably more, on paper, it may look like, it's a flat stage, but man, you need a lot of power to constantly move up and be there all the time in the front. So, anyways, he had Affini, he had Benoot, and he had Jorgensen, right? So four guys. Affini today was extraordinary to still be there in the final after all the work he has, because he has been on the front all the time with Jonas just behind him. So, he's going to be an important rider in the first week. But I think even if today only had Wellens, Tim Wellens, he looked completely in control. Even if he wouldn't have had anybody, he would still have been fine.
Yeah,
I think it's more a mental game, right?
Yeah. Because one thing I actually found myself thinking with Jonas as well is, he is short of race days this year, isn't he? He's coming in a bit ring rusty, and actually, it might not be the worst thing in the world to be doing the way he's racing at the moment. Is just, rather than sitting in the wheels, he's getting out there, he's extending his legs, because he's hoping to come good in the third week here, this tour, and really try and take it to Tadej. He's short of race days. He's done Paris-Nice. He had the crash in Paris-Nice where he was concussed, hurt his wrist, didn't he? And then, of course, he's done the Dauphiné, and he was short of the Dauphiné compared to Tadej. Tadej has had a whole spring campaign, as we've seen, Tour of Flanders, Amstel Gold, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Paris-Roubaix. So Tadej has got the confidence to sit back now because he's got those race days. And, you know what it's like, sitting in the wheels in that first week of the Tour de France, this week especially, is there's the dangers and the caution, but you can actually detrain a little bit in that first week if you're not working hard enough.
Yeah.
And
these speeds...
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is a different first week.
It's difficult,
But someone like Jonas, may need to tap in a little bit more in this first week. So he's hoping for his best form in that third week. So
I also personally think that he is looking for confirmation for himself. Like he feels good, but until you're not getting into the race and you don't test your legs. So, it's a process that he needs to, he can be confident, but he's looking for confirmation of whatever he has done now between the Dauphiné and the Tour. But anyways, today I thought he was a bit too excited, and it's but I think he needs it for his head, in my opinion. Yeah.
One other thing today, Johan, I noticed, I don't know how you would view this if you were the DS of Red Bull Racing. No riders in the front today. Yeah,
it's really bad.
With a man like Roglic, what a start to the Tour de France.
There's two things to consider. First of all, I think they didn't put all their eggs in one basket. They didn't play all their cards with Primoz. If you look at the composition of the team, right? They bring Jordi Meeus, they bring Van Poppel, they bring another guy to what's his name? Mick van Dijk, one of the twins. So those guys can obviously also do the job on the front, but I think Primoz takes it and himself. If you hear his interviews, he can say, okay, we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I was not surprised that Primoz was not there today. I was more surprised, and I actually don't know if something happened to him. But initially, we could see the back door was open very early in the race, and a guy like Florian Lipowitz was in trouble. I don't know if he was a mechanical or involved in a crash or was held up on a crash, but he looked like he was not really smooth. And so those are their two GC guys. Anyway, a team like Red Bull cannot permit themselves to not have anybody in there. That a team of that quality. So it's not a good start. Not a great start. I mean, I would not want to be in the team bus the night after this stage.
Yeah. And what about Remco? I mean, we're tipping him for a podium at this race. He's the only man outside the top two who we ever talk about that can challenge those guys and potentially win a Tour one day. But that's a disastrous start, isn't it? It's not an enormous time loss. We expect him to take that type of time back in the time trial. But from a team perspective, it's not good, is it?
No, it's a bad day for Soudal Quick-Step. They were the big favorite to win the stage with Merlier, and they have a podium candidate, so they're both not there. It's luckily it's only 38 seconds, right? So it's not bad, but mentally. I mean, I think the time difference. That's the least of their worries. It's the mentally, okay, once again, we're not here. And a guy like Remco, he does have guys around him to bring him in position. So obviously we already talked about this in other podcasts. He does have a bit of a problem with positioning himself. But still, there was 35 to 40 guys now in the first group. So you just have to be there. A stage like today, I wanted to ask you, you won the Tour in 2012 and also starting in the north of France, very similar start, similar terrain. You were with Team Sky. It was hectic. It's probably more hectic today, but it's always been hectic, right? So there was not a thought in your mind, I'm guessing, that you would not make the first group. Whenever it's split, because you would drill yourself with your team. You would go to the front and make the difference yourself. We were
the outright favourites for that race for GC, but we also had the world champion, the fastest sprinter in the world in Mark Cavendish in our team. Yeah. So we had the strongest composition of a team that could ride in the mountains, ride on hilly days like is tomorrow into Boulogne-sur-Mer. And we had the world's best sprinter in our team as well. So we had, double the power in that sense and double the command of the respect to ride in the front. And no one really challenged us. So, we had the head of the race most of that first week, keeping out of trouble. It was the best place for me to ride, so I wasn't back in the chaos. And we had, the double-edged sword that, we're not just here for GC keeping me safe, but we're also here to help keep our sprinter in the front in Mark Cavendish. And it worked a treat for us because this first week, or my first week in 2012, was very similar. We started in Liège, prologue. We went down to Saint-Quentin, Rouen, Boulogne-sur-Mer, where we finish tomorrow, which is the stage that Peter Sagan won. And it was, in some ways, that was the week that I won the Tour because I arrived on zero time when we got to that first time trial. It was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's already gone now for Remco. After stage one, he's not on zero time, so not a disaster. But I think mentally, it's not great. So they're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy.
No.
Yeah.
But what about? I still expect Remco. If it's the times stay that same, I still expect him to potentially take yellow in the first time trial because I anticipate him winning by a minute plus based on the Dauphiné time trial.
Do you? I mean, we have seen the Dauphiné, right? So I tend to, I'm not going to say disagree, but I have a bit of another opinion. It's 33 kilometers. This time trial is nothing compared to the one in the Dauphiné. The Dauphiné had a climb. Tadej, something went wrong there with his spacing. I don't know what it was, but he did something that was not right. Didn't finish exhausted or anything. But anyways, in the Tour, it's different. I expect Remco to win. At 38 seconds, okay. But let's see first of all what happens tomorrow. If Tadej doesn't take bonifications or wins the stage, because tomorrow's not an easy stage. Remco can also be in the front, but still it's explosive. And then the positioning, tomorrow also there's 3 climbs, and we'll talk about it at the end of the show. But it's another test for Remco's ability to position himself well, because this is still. Everybody's fighting for position. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do expect Remco to win, and especially now that Ghana's out of the race. I mean, he should win this. He should win this.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, Bradley, we're seeing these crashes. It happens, and it's you cannot have any idea by just watching the footage on TV how stressful it is, how hard it is, how fast it is. Not just today, but many races now in the last 2 or 3 years, I have the impression that, first of all, they crash more, which there's several explanations for that. The level of the peloton has gone up tremendously. Everybody's on a very similar level. They go faster. Disc brakes, you can say, okay, they brake better, but you also, it's like you have a domino effect. You can crash faster. I have the impression that when they crash nowadays, they hurt themselves more. And I don't know if it's my impression, but I'm sensing that they abandon on crashes a lot more than in the past. What do you think? Is that true?
Well,
is that your impression?
I don't know. Is the honest answer? I don't know, but there's definitely something in the speeds that they're riding now, the stiffness of the bikes, the disc brakes. When you stop on a disc brake, don't you? As we know. And it's the catapulting effect off the bike that seems to make the riders go down harder. One thing we're not seeing as much of now, which is maybe this is is you don't tend to see so many broken collarbones like we used to. Bodies are being injured, riders are injuring themselves to the point, concussion, a lot more concussions these days, unless we used to always have concussion. We just never were aware of them because we have the concussion protocol now. Yeah. I mean, certainly in the days of racing in hairnets and things like that, I mean, it's crazy to think how protected the riders are now. But I mean, I do think the road furniture in France now is probably the worst it's ever been, particularly in the north of France.
It's terrible.
That caused quite a few crashes. Even the finish straight today. If you saw the finish straight today, there was speed humps on the finish straight. And at one time in the Tour de France,
the barriers were not straight either.
And at one time in the Tour, that they would go round in the months before, once the town was announced that they'd have a Tour, and re-tarmac everything and take these furnitures up, wouldn't they? But now, I guess that the financial implications of doing that are so great for towns that they're forced to just leave them in, and the riders have to deal with it.
Really, if you look from the helicopter, sometimes it's crazy. It's crazy. I had the same conversation with somebody from a Belgian cycling. Belgian, for example, it's worse than the north of France. I mean, it's almost impossible anymore to organize really big professional races with 200 riders and not have crashes. So that's obviously a problem. But anyways, Ghana out, Bissiger out. We'll see. Anybody? I mean, there's other guys who crashed. And then a few surprises. For example, Alaphilippe struggling on day one, which is a surprise. And then especially, I mean, he on top, he said he was not going to go for GC, but poor Lenny Martinez. What happened to that guy? That was painful to watch. Yeah,
it was painful. Like all of them were. I mean, the King of the Mountains crash, that was something I haven't seen before. And to have a sprint of that nature on cobbles as well.
Let's have a quick look. We have a little video clip here. So it's Benjamin Thomas and this other friend, I forgot his name now, the guy from Total Energies. So it was clear that Benjamin Thomas had a mission. Cofidis is the team from Lille, right? Yeah. North of France, they know they can't win the stage, so that was a great move. He was in the break first, they get caught, he gets back in the break, needs to win that second sprint on Mont Cassel. He throws his bike and it goes down. I've never seen something like this. A two-man uphill sprint and they both crash. That was very unique.
I mean, the shot that we saw from the motorbike behind when they were actually sprinting for the King of the Mountains, you could see just the effort that was going into keeping the bike upright on those cobbles when they were both out of the saddle. And then, of course, the exertion of finishing the sprint and then trying to sit back down in the saddle and some sort of flick or catapulting of the bike on the cobbles as he transferred his body weight on it meant that he went down, and it was just unfortunate that his bike went out in the wrong direction and took his co-breakaway rider out with him. I've never seen anything like that before.
That was really, really strange. I mean, he got the King of the Mountains, so that's good. They're going to be super happy that to be on the podium in their own region. That's huge. It's the next best thing comparing to a stage win. But anyway. It can happen to anybody. I mean, Benjamin Thomas is a great bike rider, Olympic champion, multiple world champion on the track. So he's a really good back handler. He's a big racer. So Anyways, before we go on, I just wanted to talk about our second partner of today, Ketone IQ. My personal preferred format of Ketone IQ is the Ketone IQ Classic Shot. This one right here. I don't can see it. So we have seen, when scientifically it's been proven that ketones boost the athletic performance. They did a study in a placebo-controlled study with trained athletes. Ketone IQ boosted average sprint power by 19%, peak power by 13%, cut fatigue by 10%, and spiked blood ketones 5 times in just 20 minutes. Now, additionally, it's also been proven that ketones help for a faster recovery. So, as we know, Ketone IQ, they recently teamed up with Visma Leasebike and the University of Leuven to explore recovery and high-altitude adaptation. And their key findings are impressive. Improved blood flow, higher muscle oxygenation for better endurance and stamina. So take your shot and get 30% off your subscription plus a free gift with your second shipment at ketone.com/themove. Now, this is a coincidence, Bradley. I don't know if do you consume ketones sometimes?
Yeah, I take ketones every day. I take it before we go on the show, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, coincidentally, I am now 10 days into a ketogenic diet.
Nice.
I want to shred some weight. So I'm 10 days in, so I'm in ketosis right now. So cutting all the carbs. And I have discovered myself that this little shot here is an extra boost. So what I'm doing, I'm now in ketosis. I'm taking one in the morning, then one in the middle of my ride. If I ride, I try to ride 3-4 times a week, and then one in the afternoon. So this one for this afternoon, I'm going to save it for the show and take it right here.
Yeah, good. You gone for the non-flavored one?
I have the peach one.
Nice.
10 grams of ketones, no sugar, no caffeine. So ketone.com/themove for 30% of your subscription. What else do we have? So as we said, no Merlier, no Milan, no Remco, no Primoz, also no Almeida. Which is a guy that I personally think that if you look at UAE and Visma, if it's this match, right? So this is another gain. I mean, a mental gain for them. They have Visma Leasebike. They have Jonas and Matteo Jorgensen.
Yeah,
UAE is down to just Tadej, which I think is the normal plan, right? But if we look at beforehand, we look at the two teams. We have Visma Leasebike. They have Jonas and Matteo and Simon Yates, who just won the Giro. Those two riders, Matteo Jorgensen and Simon Yates, if I would be planning the strategy, I would want to keep those two guys in the GC as long as I can for further up the road to try to put them into moves. And so Simon Yates is already out of it. He lost 6 minutes today.
Yeah, 6.5 minutes.
Almeida is still there. 38 seconds is not a big deal, but they also have Adam Yates, because if you look at UAE, it's Tadej first, Almeida, and then Adam Yates for GC threats to use them strategically, right? So that's another, I would say, psychological win today for Visma. I think in the end, it's not really going to matter because, listen, if something happens to either Jonas or Tadej, it's not Jorgensen and not Simon Yates and not Almeida and not Adam Yates that are going to win the Tour. It's the other guy, right? Yeah. But anyways, I thought it was worth noting that Almeida is also not known for being a master in positioning. The fact that he's there with 38 seconds, I mean, he could have been further down. He could have easily been with the two Yates brothers, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad day for him. I think at the end of the day, when you're riding for Tadej Pogačar, their priority is Tadej Pogačar. Although Almeida is the winningest rider this season, isn't he, in terms of stage racing? And he will be the most valuable rider to Tadej in the third week of this Tour de France.
Yeah.
As will Simon Yates to Jonas Vingegaard. So I think it's not a bad result for them that those two guys came through the stage today unscathed. And again, this could be a completely different situation tomorrow night after Boulogne. Tomorrow is a tough stage. Tough stage.
Yeah.
It's today's conditions thrown in with some Liège-Bastogne-Liège climbs tomorrow. Or Amstel at least.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What else do we have? I think that's about it, right? I mean, I think everybody in the tour, the Tour Peloton, they're all happy that this first stage is out of the way. They all know it's going to be stressful tomorrow, but there's already some separation, so that already calms down. There's the first 30 guys. Many of them are not even in it for GC, so I think it's fair to say, Bradley, if you look at tomorrow's stage, looking at the profile here of tomorrow's stage, I think it's safe to say that we're going to have a different yellow jersey tomorrow. What do you think?
Well, I was going to ask you, how would you play it if you were the DS of Alpecin, the Koenig? Because do we expect Philipsen to come through tomorrow and keep the jersey? No, we don't.
No.
But do they ride? Do they take up do they take the role of riding on the front just to keep the likes of Van der Poel safe, who's won on Muur de Bretagne, which is coming up in a few days' time?
Yeah.
Is there a chance Van der Poel could take yellow if he wins again on Muur de Bretagne? I mean, what would you do? How would you play it? It's still the safest place to be, taking it up.
It's the safest play to be. I would ride because, first of all, you have the jersey. It keeps your team in the front.
Yeah.
But I would not obsess over absolutely wanting to take a breakaway because I think there's other teams that are going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
And I think personally that Van der Poel is one of the biggest favorites for tomorrow's stage.
Yeah.
He's gonna make it over those climbs and he can win that sprint.
He can.
With the power we've seen he had, he was amazing in the Dauphiné, really good form. Today he showed that he still has the huge power. So I think we could see another Alpecin, the Koenig rider in yellow tomorrow, and that's probably going to be Mathieu van der Poel.
Yeah.
Listen, we can't really say because, on a flat stage, it's Jonas Vingegaard who initiates the decision. So who would have thought, So I expect Pogačar and Jonas and some of the other GC guys, they're going to be up there because if you look at the last 9 kilometers of the profile tomorrow, we see there's these 3 climbs, and we know that in that part of France it's narrow. It's fight for position. Once you are, that third last climb, I think it's 1 kilometer, 10%.
Yeah.
It's going to be all stretched out, and from then on, there's if you're 50 places back, there's no coming back.
No.
Right? It's going to split. But the big guy is going to be in front. So who knows? Jonas must. If with the legs that Jonas felt today, maybe he might try to go tomorrow, and he's not going to drop today, for sure.
No.
But I think that. I think that Van der Poel can follow them on that course. Those climbs, like 1.5 kilometer, it's not going to be easy to drop Van der Poel, and he's going to see a golden opportunity to win the stage or to take yellow.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because even if he's top 3, it depends if Jonas or Tadej win, then that's different. But who else of the guys who were in front could be there tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out because there's a lot of different dynamics taking place tomorrow. Red Bull are going to be coming back, with a point to prove, aren't they, after today's performance?
Yeah.
Remco, if anything.
The question is, do they have the power? Do they have the legs?
Probably not. But I don't think that will stop them trying to be taking it on anyway and being in the front.
Yeah. I personally think a guy like Primoz, it's probably, it's not the worst approach to take it. Listen, at the end of the day, Primoz doesn't need to prove anything to anybody, right? He won 5 Grand Tours. He had a great career. He's in the fall of his career. I think he for himself has decided, okay, I'll see what comes, and I'll try to surf through the storms and see that I can get, relatively fresh to the mountains. Yeah.
Yeah, and based on his last 3 Tour de France's where he crashed in the first week, I think that's not a bad approach to take.
Yeah. No, but I agree. They'll try to prove a point. Yeah. Okay, so to finish off, we need to talk about our partner Ventum bikes. There's a daily trivia every show, both on the Move and on our show. There's a giveaway. a grand prize of $5,000 of store credit towards any Ventum bike you want to purchase. There's also some other prizes and sales on specific days, so stay tuned. If you don't want to wait to know who the winner is of our Ventum trivia question, which we're going to ask here at the end, during this Tour de France, there's also 10% off on the whole site and 20% off any NS1 road bike. You're riding the NS1, right?
Yes, I am. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
I just ordered one because some people, you're not one of them, but when we were in Germany, I was on a GS1 gravel bike, and some ex-professionals made fun of me. So I ordered an NS1 now.
I tell you what, you was going pretty well on it, considering you're on a gravel bike that day.
Well, I mean, and my derailleur was broken. I mean, my battery, my derailleur is broken. So, anyways, you wanna read the trivia question for today?
I would if I had it in front of me.
Okay, good. I'll read.
I don't have it.
So last seen in 2020 due to COVID restrictions, the 2025 Tour de France will play out entirely inside the bounds of its namesake country, France. It's a rarity, despite the name of the race. Tour de France has been many times outside of France. So the question is, how many times in the Tour's history has every stage taken place inside of France? How many times in the Tour's history has every single stage taken place inside of France? Send your questions to ventumracing.com/themove. And at the end of the tour, we will draw a winner who will win the grand prize of $5,000 store credit, where we are back with a different question for Ventum Trivia every day. All right. Okay, Bradley.
Okay.
I think we've covered everything. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back tomorrow for stage 2.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, man.